The massive courtroom stretched as far as Captain Elena Vasquez could see. Walls of pure crystal rose high above her, filled with strange lights that pulsed like alien heartbeats. 12 different creatures sat behind a curved desk that seemed to float in the air. Each one looked completely different from the others. Elena stood alone in the center of the room. Her dark blue uniform felt heavy on her shoulders. The flag patch on her arm showed Earth, a small, blue and green planet that most of these aliens had never bothered to visit. "The trial of the human species begins now," announced Judge Krelvan. His voice came from a translator box because his real voice sounded like grinding metal. He was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished stone. 4 arms moved as he spoke, each one holding a different glowing device. Ambassador Zethkar stood up from his seat. He was the prosecutor, the one who wanted to punish humanity. His people called themselves the Hegemony Coalition. They looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs. Sharp teeth filled his mouth when he smiled, which he did often during the trial. "Honored judges," Zethkar began, his words coming out smooth and cold. "We are here because humanity is dangerous. They have spread across 17 star systems in only 200 years. They build weapons everywhere they go. They refuse to follow our laws of peace." Elena watched as images appeared in the air above them. The images showed human colonies, human ships, and human soldiers. To the aliens in the room, these things looked scary and wrong. "Look at their history," Zethkar continued. "They have fought wars for thousands of years. They have weapons that can destroy entire planets. They teach other species to fight and rebel. This cannot continue." Judge Meltara spoke next. She looked like a giant butterfly with golden wings. Her voice was soft and musical. "What exactly are the charges against humanity?" "3 main crimes," Zethkar replied, holding up 3 clawed fingers. "First, they violate the sacred doctrine of peaceful coexistence by building military bases in space. Second, they refuse to give up their weapon technology to the Confederation. Third, and most serious, they teach dangerous ideas to other species." "What kind of dangerous ideas?" asked Judge Vorthak. He was covered in thick fur and had 6 legs. His people had been peaceful traders for thousands of years. "They teach the concept of individual rights," Zethkar said the words like they tasted bad. "They tell other species they can make their own choices. They spread ideas about something they call freedom and self-determination. These ideas cause rebellion and chaos." Elena felt anger growing inside her chest, but she kept her face calm. She had been a soldier for 20 years. She knew how to stay cool under pressure. The trial continued for hours. Zethkar showed more evidence of human crimes. Videos of human soldiers training other species. Records of human colonies that refused to follow Confederation orders. Reports of species that had started asking questions about their own governments after meeting humans. "The solution is simple," Zethkar finally concluded. "Humanity must be pacified for the good of all. They must give up their military. They must accept Confederation control of their colonies. They must stop teaching their dangerous ideas to others. If they refuse, stronger measures will be taken." Judge Krelvan looked at Elena. "Captain Vasquez, you may speak for your species." Elena stepped forward. The courtroom was so quiet she could hear her own heartbeat. She looked at each of the 12 judges, trying to read their alien faces. "Your honors," she began. "My species has done nothing wrong. We have never attacked anyone who did not attack us first. We have never forced our beliefs on others. We have simply offered friendship and knowledge to anyone who wanted it." "But you refuse to disarm," said Judge Thalosa, a creature that looked like a living cloud of gas. "Why do you need weapons if you are peaceful?" "Because peace is not the natural state of the universe," Elena replied. "We have learned that freedom must be protected. We keep weapons not because we want war, but because we want to prevent it." This is exactly the problem, Zethkar interrupted. Humanity sees conflict everywhere. They cannot understand true civilization, which is based on cooperation and submission to higher authority. Elena felt something cold in her stomach. These aliens really believed what they were saying. They thought that giving up freedom was the same as being civilized. We have heard enough, Judge Krelvan announced. The tribunal will now vote. One by one, the 12 judges voted. Each vote was the same. Guilty. Humanity is found guilty of crimes against galactic peace, Judge Krelvan declared. You have 72 standard hours to accept our terms. Your military must surrender. Your colonies must accept Confederation oversight. Your teaching of dangerous ideas must stop immediately. Elena stood perfectly still. Around her, the alien judges looked satisfied. They had solved another problem. They had stopped another threat to their perfect, peaceful galaxy. Do you understand these terms? Judge Meltara asked gently. I understand, Elena said. And will humanity comply? Elena looked up at the floating judges. Her voice was steady and clear. I will take your message to Earth. My government will give you an answer within the time limit. The judges nodded, pleased with her reasonable response. They began gathering their things, confident that the humans would do what they were told. After all, the Snallersen, way, with Creed, every other species had eventually learned to obey. As Elena left the courtroom, she noticed something in the way the aliens looked at her. They were not afraid. They were not worried. They truly believed that humans would simply give up and surrender. Elena walked through the crystal corridors of the Confederation capital. Her ship waited in the docking bay, ready to carry the tribunal's demands back to Earth. The aliens had made a mistake. They thought humans were just another species that could be bullied into submission. They had no idea what they had just threatened. They had no idea what Earth would send in response. The message from Captain Vasquez reached Earth in the middle of the night, Earth Standard Time. Within minutes, every government leader, military commander, and news agency on the planet knew what the aliens had demanded. President Chen stood before the United Earth Assembly as representatives from every nation filled the Great Hall. The room buzzed with angry voices speaking dozens of languages. Some people shouted, others sat in stunned silence. Citizens of Earth, President Chen began, her voice carrying across the packed assembly hall. We face a choice that our ancestors have faced many times before. We can kneel, or we can stand. We can surrender our freedom, or we can fight for it. The hall grew quiet. On the giant screens around the room, images showed the alien tribunal and their demands. They believe we are monsters because we refuse to bow down, President Chen continued. They think our strength makes us evil. They are about to learn something important about humanity. We crawled out of caves not because it was safe, but because we had to. We crossed dangerous oceans not because we wanted to, but because we needed to explore. We reached for the stars not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. In military bases across Earth, soldiers watched the speech. On space stations orbiting the planet, crew members gathered around screens. In the asteroid mining colonies, workers stopped their machines to listen. We will not surrender, President Chen declared. We will not give up our freedom. We will not stop teaching others that they have the right to choose their own path. The response came not from governments, but from individual people. The first volunteer appeared at the recruitment office in Geneva just 30 minutes after the president finished speaking. Master Sergeant Maria Santos had served in 3 wars. She was 42 years old, with gray streaks in her black hair and scars on her hands from fighting in the asteroid colonies. She walked into the office and placed her military ID on the desk. I want to volunteer for whatever mission you're planning, she told the surprised clerk. Ma'am, we haven't announced any mission yet, the young man replied. Maria smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. You will. By the end of the day, she was not alone. Dr. James McCready arrived from the medical corps. He had saved hundreds of lives during the Martian Independence War. Behind him came Commander Liu Wei, who had defended Europa Station against pirate attacks for 6 years. They came from everywhere. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, who had trained dolphins to work with human divers. Colonel Marcus Johnson, whose engineering teams had built the fastest ships in human space. Captain Yuki Tanaka, whose tactical planning had won the Battle of Titan's Rings. Within a week, Earth had more volunteers than ships to carry them. These were not angry young soldiers looking for glory. These were experienced warriors who understood what they were facing. They knew they might not come home. The ships were ready quickly. Human shipyards had been building them in secret for years, just in case this day came. 12 vessels, each one designed for a specific purpose. The lead ship was called Defiance. It was fast and heavily armed, designed to hit hard and disappear quickly. Next came Liberty, built for long-range reconnaissance and carrying the best communication equipment humanity could build. Valor was an assault ship, built to take damage and keep fighting. Its armor was the thickest of any ship in the human fleet. Sacrifice was designed as a support vessel, carrying medical supplies, repair equipment, and backup systems for the other ships. The other 8 ships had names that meant something to humans, but would confuse the aliens. Honor, justice, courage, hope, determination, resilience, unity, and victory. Each ship carried 50 crew members. But these were not ordinary military crews. Along with the soldiers, each ship carried teachers, doctors, engineers, and scientists. The humans understood something the aliens did not. Winning a war was not just about destroying the enemy. It was about building something better. Afterward, Maria Santos found herself assigned as Ground Forces Commander aboard Defiance. As the ship prepared to launch, she walked through the corridors and met her team. They were the best fighters humanity had ever produced, but they were also more than that. Sergeant Patel had been a teacher before he became a soldier. Corporal Zhang spoke 7 languages and had studied alien cultures for years. Private Williams was an engineer who could build weapons from spare parts, but could also fix a broken water purifier for a refugee camp. "Listen up," Maria told her team as they gathered in the ship's briefing room. "We're not going out there to destroy things. We're going to teach the galaxy something it has forgotten. We're going to show them what freedom looks like." Dr. McCready was setting up his medical bay when Commander Liu found him. "James, are you sure about this? You could stay on Earth. You could keep saving lives here." James looked up from his surgical equipment. "Liu, I've been thinking about what that alien prosecutor said. He called our ideas dangerous. He said we teach rebellion and chaos. You know what? He's right." Liu raised an eyebrow. "We do teach rebellion," James continued. "We teach people to rebel against the idea that they have to accept whatever life gives them. We teach them to rebel against the idea that someone else should control their destiny. If that's dangerous to the Confederation, then maybe the Confederation is the real problem." On the bridge of Defiance, Captain Elizabeth Torres ran through the final system checks. Her ship was ready. Her crew was ready. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for what humanity was about to show them. The alien tribunal had demanded Earth's surrender. They expected fear, panic, and eventual compliance. They thought humans were just another species that could be intimidated into submission. Instead, Earth was sending its champions, not to destroy, but to teach, not to conquer, but to liberate, not to spread fear, but to share hope. The 12 ships launched from Earth's orbital stations and began their journey toward Confederation space. Each ship carried humanity's finest warriors, teachers, and healers. They also carried something else: the unshakable belief that every intelligent being in the galaxy deserved the right to be free. The aliens had asked for humanity's submission. They were about to get humanity's answer. As the fleet jumped to faster than light speed, Maria Santos looked out at the stars and smiled. The Confederation thought they knew what they were facing. They thought humans were violent primitives who could be easily defeated. They were about to learn why that was a mistake. The human fleet had been traveling through Confederation space for 2 weeks when they received an unexpected signal. It came from a water-covered planet called Kithara Prime, home to a species the Confederation claimed to protect. Commander Liu Wei was on the Bridge of Defiance when the signal arrived. It was not a normal radio transmission. Instead, it sounded like music, a complex pattern of notes that rose and fell like ocean waves. "Captain Torres, you need to hear this," Liu called out. Captain Torres listened to the strange song. "Can we translate it?" "Working on it now," replied Lieutenant Sarah Kim, their communications expert. Unquote. She had worked with dolphin languages on Earth, so alien sounds did not surprise her. "I think it's some kind of distress call, but it's hidden inside what looks like a normal song." The fleet changed course toward Kithara Prime. As they got closer, they could see that it was a beautiful world. 3/4 of the surface was covered by deep blue oceans. Small islands dotted the water like green jewels, but something was wrong. The planet had 12 large space stations orbiting it. Each station bristled with weapons and sensors. For a species under Confederation protection, the Kithara seemed to be watched very carefully. "This doesn't look like protection," Maria Santos observed as she studied the tactical displays. "This looks like a prison." Captain Torres opened a communication channel to the planet. "This is Captain Elizabeth Torres of the Earth vessel Defiance. We received your signal. Can you respond?" The answer came as another song. This time, Lieutenant Kim was ready. Her computers worked to decode the musical language. Slowly, words appeared on the screen. "Hidden. Must speak. Hidden. They listen always. Cannot say. Help us." They're being monitored, Dr. McCready realized. They can't speak freely because someone is listening to everything they say. Captain Torres made a decision. "Kim, can you match their communication style? Can you hide our words inside music too?" "I can try," Kim replied. She had always been good with languages and music. Within an hour, she had created a basic system that could hide human words inside Kithara songs. The response from the planet was immediate. A young Kithara, named Siren Singer Delphi, managed to establish contact. Her people lived in great underwater cities, their culture built around harmony and group decisions. But the harmony was false, forced on them by their Confederation protectors. Through careful, hidden conversations, Delphi revealed the truth. The Kithara were prisoners on their own world. The Confederation had discovered that Kithara brain fluid could boost intelligence in other species. For 300 years, the Confederation had been slowly harvesting this fluid from the Kithara people. "They take a little from each of us every year," Delphi sang sadly through the hidden translation. "They say it is a tax for their protection. But we grow weaker. Our songs grow quieter. Our people die young now, when once we lived for centuries." Dr. McCready ran medical scans of the data Delphi provided. What he found made him angry. They're killing them, slowly. The neural fluid is essential to Kithara health. Without it, they can't think clearly. They can't live long, and they can't resist. Maria Santos studied the orbital stations. 12 platforms, maybe 50 guards each. They're not expecting trouble. The Confederation has kept this quiet for 3 centuries. No one knows what's happening here. But when the humans offered to help, Delphi's response broke their hearts. "Help. We do not understand this word. We have never known another way." Tarbs. How does one learn to fight when they have never seen violence? How does one rebel when they do not know rebellion is possible? This was humanity's first real test. The humans could destroy the orbital stations and defeat the guards. But that would not free the Kithara. A species that had never known freedom would not know what to do with it. Maria Santos requested permission to go to the planet's surface. Captain Torres was worried, but Maria had a plan. "I'm not going to teach them to hate or kill," she explained. "I'm going to teach them something much more dangerous." The landing party was small. Maria, Dr. McCready, and Lieutenant Kim took a shuttle down to one of the Kithara cities. The city was beautiful, built from living coral that glowed softly in the ocean depths. But the Kithara people looked tired and weak. Their songs were quiet and sad. Delphi met them at the city's main gathering place. She was young for her species, maybe equivalent to a human teenager. Her skin was pale blue-green, and she moved through the water with graceful, flowing motions. But her large eyes were full of sadness. "You are the first aliens we have met who are not our protectors," she sang. "We do not know how to speak to you." "Speak however feels natural," Maria replied gently. The conversation that followed changed everything. Maria did not teach the Kithara about weapons or tactics. Instead, she taught them a single word: no. "What is this word?" Delphi asked. "It means you have a choice," Maria explained. "When someone asks you to do something, you can say yes, or you can say no. When someone tries to take something from you, you can let them, or you can say no. But the protectors say we must give them the neural fluid. It is the law." "Laws can be changed," Lieutenant Kim added. "Laws should protect people, not hurt them. If a law hurts you, you have the right to say no." Dr. McCready showed them medical data. "Your people are dying because of what's being taken from you. You have the right to keep what you need to live." The idea was revolutionary to the Kithara. For generations, they had believed that obedience was the highest virtue. The concept that they could refuse, that they could choose, was completely new. Delphi was quiet for a long time. Finally, she sang a question. "If we say no, what happens then?" "Then you learn to be free," Maria replied. "It's not easy. Freedom means you have to make your own choices and live with the results. But it also means no one can take from you what you don't want to give." Word spread through the underwater cities. The Kithara had never experienced anything like this conversation. For the first time in centuries, they began to ask questions. Why did they have to give up their neural fluid? Why couldn't they travel to other worlds? Why weren't they allowed to make their own decisions? The uprising began quietly. It started when a young Kithara simply said no when asked to report for neural fluid extraction. Then another said no. Then 10 more. The Confederation guards were confused. The Kithara had always been obedient. They had never refused orders before. At first, the guards tried to force compliance, but the Kithara had learned something powerful from the humans. They had learned to sing together. When one Kithara said no, their voice was small and easily ignored. But when 1,000 Kithara sang no together, their combined voices could be heard across the entire ocean world. The songs changed from harmony to resistance. They sang about choice, about freedom, about the right to live without fear. The song spread from city to city, carried by the ocean currents and by Kithara, who had never imagined they could refuse their protectors. Above the planet, the Confederation guards sent urgent messages to their superiors. The situation was getting out of control. The Kithara were rebelling, and they could not understand why. Meanwhile, the human fleet prepared for what was coming next. Long-range sensors detected a large Confederation battle fleet moving toward Kithara Prime. The aliens were not going to let this rebellion continue. Maria Santos returned to Defiance with a heavy heart. She had taught the Kithara to say no, but now they would have to fight for that right. The question was whether humanity could protect their new allies long enough for freedom to take root. The Confederation fleet will be here in 3 days, Captain Torres reported. 60 ships, fully armed. Then we better be ready, Maria replied. Because the Cathara are counting on us now. The humans had offered friendship to an enslaved species. Now, they would have to prove that friendship meant something. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans fought for others' freedom. Admiral Thexran of the Dominari Empire commanded the largest battle fleet in Confederation space. 60 warships filled the darkness around Kithara Prime, each one larger than anything the humans could build. His flagship alone was 3 times bigger than the human vessel Defiance. The admiral stood on his command bridge, looking at the tactical display. 12 small human ships faced his mighty fleet. It should have been over before it started. Admiral, the humans are responding to our surrender demand, reported his communication officer. Put it on the main screen, Thexran ordered. Commander Lu Wei's face appeared on the display. Behind him, the Bridge of Defiance looked small and cramped compared to the Dominari Command Center. But Lu's eyes were steady and calm. Admiral Thexran, I am Commander Lu Wei of the Earth Defense Force. We have received your demand for surrender. Good, Thexran rumbled. His voice was deep and threatening. You will order your ships to power down their weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your crews will be taken into custody and returned to Earth for trial. Liu was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Admiral, I want to make sure you understand our position clearly. We are humanity. We do not kneel. We do not break. We do not surrender. If you want our freedom, come and take it. Thexran's 4 eyes widened in surprise. In 3,000 years, no species had ever refused a Dominari surrender demand. His people were the enforcers of galactic peace. Everyone feared them. You have 10 minutes to reconsider, Thexran warned. After that, we will destroy your ships. We'll be waiting, Liu replied, and cut the communication. The admiral looked at his tactical officer. Are all weapons charged? Yes, sir. We have enough firepower to destroy their entire fleet in minutes. Then why am I worried? Thexran asked himself quietly. The answer came when the battle began. The humans did not fight like any enemy the Confederation had ever faced. Standard galactic warfare was orderly and predictable. Ships formed battle lines and exchanged fire at long range. The side with better weapons and shields usually won. It was clean and efficient. Human warfare was chaos. The moment the admiral gave the attack order, the human ships scattered in 12 different directions. Defiance and Liberty disappeared into the nearby Veil Nebula, a cloud of gas and dust that blocked sensors. Valor charged straight at the Confederation Center, taking heavy fire but refusing to retreat. What are they doing? The tactical officer asked. Sacrifice moved to protect Valor, using its armored hull to block enemy fire. But then something happened that shocked the Confederation crews. When Sacrifice took critical damage and began to break apart, the crew did not abandon ship. Instead, they turned their dying vessel into a weapon, ramming it into a Confederation cruiser. Primitives, Thexran snarled. They fight like animals. But as the battle continued, the admiral began to see a pattern. The humans were not fighting like animals. They were fighting like humans. Unpredictable, desperate, and absolutely refusing to give up. Defiance and Liberty emerged from the nebula behind the Confederation fleet. While the alien ships tried to turn around, Honor and Justice attacked from the sides. The humans used the confusion to target the Confederation's command ships. They're trying to cut off our communications, the tactical officer reported. Impossible. We have backup systems on every ship. But the humans had studied Confederation technology. They knew exactly where to hit. One by one, the alien command ships found their communication arrays destroyed by precise human fire. The real shock came when the humans boarded a Confederation dreadnought. The ship Unity had taken severe damage, but instead of retreating, it attached itself to the alien vessel like a parasite. 50 human soldiers cut their way inside the dreadnought. They moved through the ship's corridors like ghosts, appearing and disappearing before the alien crew could respond. Lieutenant Sarah Kim led the boarding party. Her team carried simple projectile weapons and vibro blades, primitive compared to alien energy weapons, but they knew how to use them in tight spaces. The Confederation crew had never faced close-quarters combat. They were used to clean battles, fought with computers and energy beams. When humans appeared in their corridors with guns and knives, they panicked. "How are they moving so fast?" one alien officer screamed into his communicator. "Our sensors show they're everywhere, at once." Sarah's team had trained for this. They used maintenance shafts, service tunnels, and emergency exits. They struck hard and disappeared, leaving confused alien defenders firing at empty air. Within an hour, the humans had captured the dreadnought's bridge. They did not kill the crew. That would have been wasteful. Instead, they locked them in their own detention cells and used the ship's powerful weapons against the rest of the Confederation fleet. Admiral Thexran watched in growing horror as his superior force was systematically destroyed by 12 tiny human vessels. His ships were more advanced, his crews were better trained, and he outnumbered the humans 5-1. None of it mattered. The humans fought with a desperation and cunning that no Confederation military manual had ever described. "Sir, we've lost 18 ships," his tactical officer reported. "The humans are using our own vessels against us." "How is this possible?" Thexran demanded. Commander Maria Santos answered that question when her assault team captured another Confederation ship. She spoke directly to the alien crew over their own communication system. "You want to know how this is possible?" she asked. "You've spent 3,000 years fighting enemies who give up when they're outnumbered. You've never fought someone who would rather die than surrender. You've never faced a species that turned their entire planet into a school for survival." She was right. The Dominari had maintained peace through fear. They had superior technology and overwhelming numbers. Their enemies always surrendered before the real fighting started. Humans did not surrender. They adapted. When Confederation energy shields proved too strong, humans used kinetic weapons, simple metal projectiles that punched through advanced defenses. When alien sensors were too sophisticated, humans used basic visual targeting and manual controls. Most importantly, humans understood something about war that the Confederation had forgotten. Technology did not win battles. The will to fight won battles. "Admiral, the humans are hailing us again," the communication officer reported. This time, it was Maria Santos who appeared on the screen. Behind her, alarms were blaring on what was clearly a damaged human ship. She was bleeding from a cut on her forehead, but her eyes were bright with victory. "Admiral Thexran, you have a choice to make," she said. "You can keep fighting and lose more ships, or you can retreat and tell your superiors what you learned here today." "What did I learn?" Thexran asked bitterly. "You learned that humans don't fight wars to destroy enemies. We fight wars to protect what we care about. Today, we care about the Cathara. Tomorrow, we might care about someone else. If you want to keep your empire together, you better start thinking about what that means." Admiral Thexran looked around his damaged bridge. 23 of his ships were gone. The survivors were scattered and confused. His mighty fleet had been defeated by 12 human vessels that should not have lasted 5 minutes. "Fall back," he ordered quietly. As the Confederation fleet retreated, the human ships regrouped around Cathara Prime. They had won, but the cost had been high. 4 human ships were destroyed. Many good people had died. On the planet below, the Cathara sang new songs. For the first time in 300 years, they sang songs of joy. Their strange human allies had kept their promise. They had shown the galaxy that freedom was worth fighting for. But Admiral Thexran was already sending a message to Confederation High Command. The humans were not what they had expected. They were not simple barbarians with advanced weapons. They were something far more dangerous. They were a species that had learned how to win impossible battles through sheer determination and refusal to accept defeat. The Confederation was about to learn what that meant for the rest of the galaxy. 3 weeks after the battle at Kythera Prime, the human fleet arrived at Confederation capital. They were no longer alone. Ships from a dozen species flew alongside them. Kythera vessels that sang through space, Zelani traders who had thrown off their protection contracts, and even some Dominari ships, led by Admiral Thexran himself. President Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship Humanity's Dawn, watching the massive capital world grow larger on the main screen. The planet was covered in gleaming cities that stretched from pole to pole. Millions of beings lived there, all believing that the Confederation kept the galaxy safe and peaceful. "Incoming transmission from the Supreme Council," reported Communications Officer Park. "Put them through," Chen ordered. The screen showed 12 familiar faces. The same judges who had put humanity on trial just 3 weeks ago. But now, they looked different. Gone was the confident authority they had shown before. Instead, their eyes held fear and confusion. Judge Krelvan spoke first, his forearms trembling as he held his communication device. "President Chen, we wish to discuss terms for ending this conflict." Chen raised an eyebrow. "Terms? 3 weeks ago, you demanded our surrender. You gave us 72 hours to comply or face destruction. What's changed? You must understand," Judge Meltara said, her butterfly wings fluttering nervously. "We never intended for violence to occur. The Confederation has maintained peace for 3 millennia. We only wanted to prevent chaos and disorder." "By enslaving entire species?" asked Admiral Thexran, stepping into view behind Chen. His presence on the human flagship shocked the council members. "By harvesting neural fluid from the Kythera? By forcing others to give up their freedom for your version of peace?" Judge Vorthak's 6 legs shifted uncomfortably. "Admiral Thexran, why are you with the humans? Your people are the enforcers of Confederation law." "I learned something important," Thexran replied. "Real peace cannot be built on fear and oppression. The humans taught me that." Ambassador Zethkar, the prosecutor who had demanded humanity's punishment, stepped forward. His lizard-like face showed none of its earlier confidence. "President Chen, we are prepared to offer concessions. We can negotiate new terms for human colonies. We can discuss modifications to our policies." "Modifications?" Chen's voice was cold. "You want to modify slavery? You want to negotiate new terms for oppression? We are willing to grant limited autonomy to certain species," Judge Krelvan offered desperately. "Selected worlds could be allowed to make some of their own decisions. Under Confederation oversight. Of course." Behind Chen, Master Sergeant Santos stepped forward. Her uniform was clean now, but she still carried scars from the recent battles. "You still don't understand, do you? You think this is about getting better deals or more comfortable chains?" Dr. McCready joined them on the bridge. "We've been studying your medical records, the data from across your empire. Do you know what we found? Species after species showing signs of depression, shortened lifespans, decreased creativity. You've been slowly killing the galaxy's spirit for 3,000 years." The council members looked at each other in confusion. Judge Thelosa, the gas cloud being, spoke in a voice like wind through crystals. "But there has been peace. No wars. No conflicts. No suffering. No growth either," Chen replied. "No progress. No dreams. No hope. You've created a galaxy of prisoners who have forgotten they're in jail." The communication continued for hours. The council offered everything they could think of. Trade agreements, technology sharing, seats on various committees. They promised to reform their policies, to be more fair in their treatment of subject species. Finally, Chen had heard enough. "You're still missing the point. This isn't about what you can give us. This is about what you've been taking from everyone else. Then what do you want? Judge Krelvan asked desperately. Chen looked at her advisors, then back at the screen. We want you to do something that you've never done before. We want you to ask the people of the galaxy what they want. The silence from the council was complete. Every species in your empire, Chen continued. Every world, every colony, every space station. Ask them if they want to remain under Confederation control, or if they want to govern themselves. Let them choose. Impossible, Zethkar hissed. That would cause chaos. Wars would break out. Species would fight each other without our guidance. Maybe, Chen admitted. Or maybe they'll surprise you. Maybe they'll choose to work together because they want to, not because they have to. Judge Meltara's wings folded tightly against her body. And if we refuse? Chen's expression hardened. Then you'll face the consequences. But not just from us. Look around you. Half of your own people have joined us. The Kithara sing songs of freedom across the galaxy. The Zelani are teaching other species about free trade. Even Admiral Thexran's Dominari are asking why they spent so long enforcing laws they never chose. The truth was spreading. Across the Confederation, species that had never questioned their situation were beginning to ask why they couldn't make their own decisions. The concept of choice, once introduced, was impossible to stop. You have 24 hours, Chen announced. Dissolve the forced aspects of the Confederation and allow free choice. Or watch it collapse under its own weight as more and more species choose freedom. The council members looked terrified. But Judge Krelvan managed to speak. And if we comply? What happens to us? Chen paused, considering her answer carefully. That's up to the people you've been ruling. Some might forgive you, others might not, but that's what justice looks like. The people affected get to decide what happens next. We need time to consider, Judge Meltara whispered. You have it, Chen replied, and closed the communication. Admiral Thexran looked at her with something like admiration. You could have demanded their destruction. Your people have the power to take revenge for what was done to you. Revenge is easy, Chen answered. Building something better is hard work. Over the next day, messages poured in from across the galaxy. Species after species declared their independence from Confederation control. Some chose to remain associated with the old government, but as equals rather than subjects. Others formed new alliances based on shared interests rather than forced compliance. The Kithara sent a message that was both song and declaration. They would remain in contact with other species, but they would govern their own world and protect their own people. When the 24 hours ended, Judge Krelvan appeared on screen again. His forearms hung limply at his sides. The Confederation Council votes to dissolve all forced control over member species. Each world, each people, will be free to choose their own path. And what about the council itself? Chen asked. We will face whatever justice the people decide we deserve. 6 months later, the galaxy was transformed. The old Confederation had become the Galactic Commonwealth, where each species had an equal voice and the right to determine their own future. Humans served not as rulers, but as advisors and teachers, helping other species discover their own strength. Captain Vasquez, now Ambassador Vasquez, stood in the same courthouse where humanity had once been condemned. But this time, she was not on trial. She was helping to establish courts that would protect the rights of all species, including the rights of former oppressors who were learning to live in a free galaxy. The transformation was not without problems. Some species struggled with the concept of freedom after millennia of control. Others fought among themselves over old grievances. But for the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy was growing, changing, and reaching towards something better. In the gardens of New Geneva, Earth's diplomatic center, a young Kithara named Echo Singer played with a human child. Above them, Ships from dozens of species arrived and departed, their crews no longer servants or masters, but partners in building a future where no one had to beg for the right to be free. Ambassador Vasquez often walked through those gardens, thinking about the trial that had started everything. The Confederation had demanded humanity's surrender, expecting fear and compliance. Instead, Earth had sent its champions. Not to destroy, but to teach. Not to conquer, but to liberate. Not to spread human rule, but to share human dreams. As siren singer Delphi, now the Kithara's first elected representative, often said in her speeches to the Commonwealth Assembly, "The humans did not teach us to hate our oppressors. They taught us something far more dangerous. They taught us that we deserved better." The galaxy had pleaded for mercy when it realized what it had unleashed. But humanity's greatest strength had never been its capacity for war. It was its capacity for showing others that freedom was possible, that choice was a right, and that every being in the universe deserved the chance to write their own story. In the end, Earth had not conquered the stars. It had liberated them.